call to order the Cottrellville Township Board meeting for Wednesday, October 9th. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome, everybody. Sherry, will you do a roll call attendance, please?
Sue? Here. Tom?
Here.
Kathy?
Here.
Mary Agnes?
Here.
Sherry? Here.
Okay. We have a special request that all people that are speaking from the audience must step to the podium so that those people who are watching the board meeting from their home on TV will hear both their question and the answer from the board member. We have guests today. At our September meeting, we announced that the township audit information would be presented by township auditors, SBW or Stewart, Bouvet, and Whipple, their CPAs, Mr. Paul Bailey and Mrs. Tammy Pitzer, and we welcome them both to our meeting tonight. As a courtesy to our guests, we will ask that they make the presentation to the board so they don't have to wait in through all our other business, and they can get home at an early hour with their families. So if you want to start with that, let's hit the road.
Okay, it's a pleasure to be here tonight. Tammy and I, again, this is Tammy Pitzer, my name is Paul Bailey, and we passed out a copy of your March 31st, 2019 audit report. We'll just briefly go through it. Financially, I think everything looks pretty good. We'll just touch on some highlights. If you turn in just past the table of contents, it says Stewart, Bouvet, and Whipple on the top of the page, page 1 at the bottom. And it also says Independent Auditor's Report. Again, this year you have what they call an unmodified or clean opinion. That's what you're striving for. We come in, we do a lot of testing. We do help suggest some audit entries and so forth, but everything presented in the audit report is presented in accordance with general accepted accounting principles. When we send it to the Department of Treasury, there's a box we have to check whether you received that unmodified or clean opinion, and they're looking for that. Again, it's what they call an unmodified or clean opinion. Page 3 through 4, 5, and 6 is something called the Management Discussions and Analysis Letter. We're not going to spend a lot of time tonight going over it. Basically what it is, it just kind of explains to the reader an overview of the township, some very summarized financial information. We're going to touch a little bit more detail than that. This letter is required to be in there to get that unmodified opinion there, but again, we'll just kind of skip over that because we're going to talk a little bit more detail. On page 7, 7, 8, and 9, there's really two sets of financial statements in your audit reports. Page 7, 8, and 9 is a commercial way of looking at Cottrellville Township as of March 31st, 2019. And what it basically does is it takes all the assets that Cottrellville owns, less all the liabilities, and it comes up with what they call net position or equity if you were a corporation. If you were at the bottom right-hand corner and you were a municipal or a corporation, you'd be worth about $5,795,000. That adds the value of your buildings, your vehicles, things like that in there. We're not going to spend a lot of time talking about the commercial way tonight. We're going to talk more of how the townships normally, governmental accounting, that don't include the capital assets. One of the things is you have a positive net position in all your governmental funds and your business type funds. A lot of entities have promised legacy cost, and they actually have negative net position when you look at them on a commercial set of financial statements. So, for instance, they've promised a lot of pensions or a lot of post-retirement benefits to the employees. A lot of governments actually have brackets around a lot of these numbers. You don't have any of that, and that's really the only reason I point that out. If we go over to page 10, we'll start talking about the way you maintain your accounting records and the way governments have traditionally reported for the last 30 years. This is what they call your balance sheet. It's a snapshot as of March 31st, 2019. We'll start with the first column, your general fund. You'll see basically you had investments of $340,200. It lists some of your receivables. The major one there is due from other governmental units, the state shared revenues that come in after the end of your fiscal year at March 31st. Due from other funds of $17,000. Some prepaid expenses, items you paid for in fiscal 19 that benefit fiscal 20. So total assets in your general fund are $479,963. It then lists your liabilities, accounts payable, 31,000, accrued expenses, which is mainly salary type things, 11,460. Due to other funds of 179,000, for total liabilities of 223,259. You had what they call unavailable revenues. It's money that's owed to you, but it comes in quite more than 60 days after the end of the year, of 23,965, which leaves your fund balance as of March 31st, 2019 of $232,739. You'll see there's two classifications. They pull the prepaid out there, it's non-spendable, because you've already paid somebody, but you're gonna get the benefits in the year you're currently in, and then the unassigned is $197,000, and we'll talk more about that. If you look right next to it, your garbage fund, their fund balance at the end of the year was $265,938. The other column there is called the other governmental funds. Just list, that's for your Cherry Beach lighting and your park fund. And together, those two funds had $40,334 fund balance. They're broken down in the back, but again, in front, they're just combined together. If you turn over to page 12, page 12 is what they call the statement of revenues, expenses, and changes in fund balance, or the operating statement. Shows the revenues and expenses for your year ended March 31st, 2019. You'll see the general fund took in taxes of $131,000 basically. Licenses and permits of $71,000, intergovernmental, which is your state share revenue, primarily of $307,000. You can see charges for service and interest. Total revenues this year in your general fund, $534,913. You had expenses of $518,000. So for the year ended March 31st, 2019, you were $16,421 to the positive. So revenues over expenses by $16,000. Your garbage fund next to it took in $192,868. You spent $183,475, so you were $9,393 to the good. Again, revenues over expenditures. Your other column, again, the Cherry Beach lighting and the parks together took in $20,163. You spent $8,706, so those two funds together were $11,457 to the positive. So all your governmental funds had a positive revenues over expenditures for the year ended March 31st. If you turn over to page 14, this is, you have what we just talked about, governmental funds. You also have what they call proprietary funds, your water and sewer funds. These funds operate similar to a business with the idea that they're supposed to recover the cost of the operations. And you'll see on the page 14, just list your assets and your liabilities. When you get to the bottom of the page, you'll see the net position for your water fund was $3,734,000. Now, you don't have that much money in cash. That's, a lot of it's tied up in water and sewer lines. Really, if you took a look at, kind of go back towards the top, the first subtotal, $532,000, and you subtracted the $74,000, you'd have about $455,000 of money available in your water fund. Your sewer fund, it really is two lines from the bottom, also called your unrestricted, would be $264,000 to fund balance or retained earnings. Over on page 15 is the operating statement for your water and sewer fund. You'll see your water fund took in $523,000. You had expenses of $506,000. Then you had what they call other operating revenues and expenses, a net of $14,000 of expenses. So for the year ended March 31st, your water fund was $2,647 net change in net position or to the good. So basically a break even in your water fund this year. Your sewer fund, you'll see there, took in $320,791. You had expenses of $217,000. Other revenues of $3,088, so for the year ended, they were $106,000 to the good. So the sewer fund actually had quite a good revenues over expenditures, but their cash position was pretty low, so you needed to do that. The remainder of the report just is a lot more detail. It gets into what they call I'll just touch on page 17. It's called the fiduciary funds. You have what they call tax funds, where money comes in. It's put into the fund and then distributed to other municipalities and to the township. That's what Fund 17. There is no revenues or expenses. It just is a holding account that it comes in until you decide where it belongs, and then you send it out. That's what that is. And starting on page 18, it goes on for about 10 or 12 pages. are the notes to the financial statement. Just gives the reader a lot more information on some of the accounting practices utilized by the township, some detail on some of the numbers, things like that, just for, if somebody wants some more detail. And then there's some more detail in the back on your general fund and so forth. But also, in the back of the report, what we've handed out, when we do an audit, not only do we come in and look at the numbers, but definitely spend a lot of time auditing the numbers, but one of the things we also spend a lot of time is looking at your controls, and if there's any, what we call weaknesses in your system, we're required to report it to this group. And the first letter says Independent Auditor's Report on Internal Control on the top. One of the things that one of the recommendations we have is to make sure that you adopt a budget for all your funds. This year, there was an oversight that a budget wasn't adopted for the garbage fund or the Cherry Beach Lighting Fund or the Park Fund. Public Act 621 requires you to have a budget in place before you actually can spend money there. So we strongly encourage to try to make sure you adopt budgets for that to be in compliance with that. The other thing there, we do suggest, and the Michigan Department of Treasury suggests, when you approve your budget, there's different levels you can approve it at. I know you get the line level when you get all the documentation, and then there's like the total general fund budget, and then there's the budget by department. Where you'll have the clerk's department and the treasurer's department, the supervisor's department. It's recommended that you approve your budget at that level, and we encourage you to do that. Yours is a little bit iffy of whether it's a line element, but the motion you pass is at the total level. What you really, the Department of Treasury suggests, and we do too, is that you actually approve it at the department level in the future. And there's a few reasons for that. One is that it allows the department heads to be held accountable for their own budget. It's just by total. And you don't have to be worried about a line item. If supplies go $5 over, you don't have to amend the budget every time. As long as the department stays in the positive, it saves a lot of time and energy on your amendments. The reason they don't like it just a total expenditure, that's too summarized there, and it's only one number for your whole general fund, and no one department, you don't look at them individually when you're holding people accountable for your budget. So that's what that's talking about. If you turn over to page 2, we just suggest that your what they call subsidiary ledgers, or your detailed ledgers on your water and sewer and the special assessments, be reconciled to your general ledger on a monthly basis. When we come in, Tammy and my staff had to help you make sure that worked and get that to work out. They're just control features. You have like a listing of all special assessments, and then there's a control number on your general ledger that those two should balance at all times. We're suggesting that on a monthly or quarterly basis that you do reconcile that. Number 3 there is it says lack of segregation of duties. One of the things, and it's hard with a small entity, is you try to make sure that no one department or one individual has control or can do certain things to your accounting system. And the Michigan compiled laws really specify what's the clerk duties and what's the treasurer's duties are. And you do a pretty good, you follow those, except for one of the things is you have to have a computer administrator for all your programs. Well, when you give that kind of to the treasurer's department, they may, even though we didn't find any of this happening, they are allowed to do journal entries and so forth to the accounting system, and the treasurer's office shouldn't be able to do that. So we're saying if it's possible to take a look at that process and maybe get that out of the treasurer's office would increase your control. Now again, we didn't find anything, but our job is to prevent something from happening in the future. And then finally, the last one's more of a technicality. Back when Enron and everything was going on, they came up with this idea that all entities should have somebody on staff that could pull this financial statement together. Entities that we deal with our size rely on the auditors to pull that together. That's very typical of governments, and we do that for you, but technically it's a weakness. But just probably 75 to 80% of our governmental clients have that recommendation, has to have that in there. The second letter is what they call the audit communication letter. Because CPA firms are not required to come to a meeting like this, we appreciate the opportunity to come and present this to you and answer any questions. It just says whether we had any problems. Again, Tammy is a senior on the job. She's here on a day-in basis. She works with your staff. And your staff is very cooperative with us. We work very well, not only during the audit, but throughout the year, very well back and forth. And we do appreciate all the cooperation in here. And it basically says that we didn't have any difficulties, we work back and forth, we help you with a few things, but we do it together, back and forth. On the back, we always, we do probably 40 governmental units, 30, 40 governmental units. Sometimes we have, ideas that can help the process maybe more efficiently and so forth. It's called Attachment A. There's there's a few items here that we, suggest you look at and possibly try to implement them in the coming year just to make the system work better. I can go through them, but I can answer any questions anybody may have also on the numbers, on the process, or on the letters. If you'd like, I can go through those.
Yeah, we had this in the draft, those two, unless somebody else has questions.
Yeah, we presented this
Yeah.
in draft form earlier, yes.
Has anyone got any questions? No? I guess we're all set.
Okay, well, thank you. We appreciate your business, and anytime you need us, feel free to give us a call.
Well, we thank you so much for all you do and allowing us to bug Tammy all the time, but she's very patient with at least with me.
She does a very good job.
So she does a very good job.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you so very much.
Pleasure working with you.
Sure. Don't go far, Paul.
On these attachments, I know a few of these have been put on the last couple of years. When do they implement them? When do you get after them? Do you do anything? These are recommendations, I know.
We can only recommend, like for instance, one of the ones was regarding cash, and the process really improved this year. This year you had cash pretty well reconciled, and that's the one we told you to really concentrate on.
And
There was
it's
some
reconciled all the
Yes.
way up to this
There was some
zero,
some
all the
small
way.
differences, and we still suggest maybe some streamlining, but that was in a very improved, that was on the other letter. The first letter I went over are the more significant ones, so that kind of got off that letter and moved over to this letter here. So we worked on that here. On some of the other ones, it's, up to the board to when they do it. As auditor, we can't do anything.
Okay, then I'm gonna address the board. On the water districts, which is my hang-up, is I know that Water District 3 is a good $1 million more than Water District 2A, and yet the money doesn't seem to coincide. And it was supposed to be gone over, and the auditors did suggest it definitely last year, possibly the year before. Is that ever gonna get done?
Yes, ma'am. It's just, we had to do some shuffling here to get the main things done that we're
Right.
trying to keep the treasurer's office and the clerk's office from fighting with one another.
I
They
don't,
got-
wait.
They got that all down now. Everybody's balancing. It's really good. I mean, we're a cohesive
Yes.
group now.
But the thing is that we were going, we talked about these special districts, water districts. The idea that we talked about last was that we were gonna have the assessor work on it with the treasurer's department, but that hasn't happened yet. So that, we spent last year just getting the general ledger
Well, I
line
know
items
when you
and
came
things.
in, a lot of things were messed up.
No, and I'm saying, but.
No, truthfully, it was.
Yeah.
It was
There
messed
a lot
up.
of
I
things
don't
that were messed
know,
up.
I don't see that yet. I mean, I know you've been talking about it for the time that I've been in
It
office.
just doesn't make sense what shows, on the reports.
Right, but
and
I'm
stuff.
not there yet, so I can't really speak to that because I really don't know other than what I had when I came in and what I have in the investments, and so that is something that's gonna take some time to go back.
Right, I know it's gonna, and,
Right.
because we're over halfway on both districts now.
Right.
We
Yes.
just did our halfway.
Yes.
on 3
Well,
and
it's
4
gonna be
and
something that we'll
2A.
assign to Nicole as office manager too, and, Barb, she's got a new assistant as well. She lost her assistant last year. So we're trying to keep things, we're trying to keep it leveled off a little bit. Barb just retired from Clay,
Yeah,
so
I know she did, but
I-
it was just because it's
I
been a
wanted
couple
her
of years.
to get her, to just kind of calm down and get a little breather here, and then I'm sure that is something that we can work on. Nicole is always, anything you give her to start digging on, man, she's good at it, so we just gotta give her a shovel. She's
Yeah,
very
well,
good.
it's gonna take a lot more than just Nicole, though. I mean, she's gonna have to, she can't do that whole process by
No,
herself.
but
That's gonna be it's
Yeah.
gonna be a
it's
process.
gonna be a starting point with Barb, because she set that all up, so. Once you have beginning numbers, then I think the two of them will be able to,
I do have a question. I just want to clarify on the IT information that you had about the treasurer's office. That's the IT, that's the controls that the administrator applies to each user on the computer that you're talking about, right? Okay.
Right.
And we aren't in charge of IT. The treasurer's department's not in charge of IT. The administrator is the clerk.
Oh, did I misspeak, Tam?
No, I believe you were, and then it changed right after the end of the year.
Yeah.
Actually, both of us.
Yes, I just want to say that Nicole, when she became office manager, she was helping because there was some question on how to do that within the system. I just want to clarify that she
Yeah.
did not do that on her
Yep.
own.
no.
Okay,
And
so-
her degree is in,
Right, but the
kinda
original
works,
person
so.
in charge of IT, as per job description, is the clerk's office. But when Nicole came in, because it wasn't, a lot of us didn't have computer experience on how to be the administrator. Nicole helped set it up,
Yep.
so she didn't apply those.
Yeah, and
I
we
just
run-
want to clarify.
Yeah, and we run into that quite
Yeah,
often,
yeah.
where the person with the most experience
Right.
sometimes isn't in the
Right, but it should
ideal
be-
department,
But that has been
Yeah.
corrected,
Yeah.
and
One of the-
nobody has a whole
Yeah.
access, and all the users were checked, and there were
Good.
other users.
Yeah, I was gonna
that
say,
had
that's what I was
access
gonna
as
say, there
well.
was some other users
Yes.
that had full access that
Yes.
should have been limited access.
Outside the
and-
treasurer's
Yes.
office, yes.
And again, this recommendation is for the year ended
Yes.
March 31st, where you.
I didn't
again-
want
Already
anybody to think
corrected some
that we
of that
were
stuff.
app scamming.
Yes, so you've actually corrected that.
is that a new word?
That's my word, app
You've
scamming.
actually corrected that.
Okay. All right, then, if there's no other questions, we thank you very kindly for your time and effort, and most of all, the work.
And thank you for getting
Thank you
this
so
on
much.
quick.
Thank you.
All right, does anybody want a break, or can we keep going?
I'm good.
I'm good.
Okay,
Drive careful, enjoy
Yeah.
your time.
thank you. All right, we'll go do an agenda approval for additions and deletions. The first thing I want to add is Chief Joe Slankster is here from the Marine City Area Fire Authority, and he wants to make an announcement, and I would like to give him time to do that so that he can go to his afternoon shift or his night shift. But first of all, let's do the agendas, consent agenda. The only thing I want to add is $550 to Kelly Law Firm. It came in today. And then Barb Schutt also needs to be reimbursed for her classes that she took at mileage, $563.55, and I've included that in the package that I just gave you this, when you came to the desk here. So if there's anything else anybody else wants to add, I would like I would like a motion to approve the agenda, consent agenda with those additions.
I'll make the motion to approve the consent agenda with those additions.
I have a second? We have a second. All in favor signify by saying aye. By roll call vote, please, Sherry.
Tom,
Yes.
Kathy,
Yes,
Sue,
Yes.
Mary Agnes,
Yes,
Sherry, yes.
motion carried. Thank you. All right. The consent agenda, the first item is the minutes of September 18th. Then we have the approval of the treasurer's reports, the investment accounts for September 30th, including all CDs and money markets, the reconciliation of general checking, number 5667 as of 8/31/2019, reconciliation of tax account number 3905 as of 8/31/2019, cash summary report by account general fund for August 31st, all funds, The approval of the clerk's report, the revenue and expenditure report ending September 30th. Approval of payroll checks from September 1st to September 30th, the gross amount of $21,669.82. Approval of account payables. Opens in the amount of $5,368.85 plus this another $1,000 from Kelly and Barb. Also, $119,000 of already paid, check numbers 20,169 through 20,207, including one void, 39 checks. We also have the Marine City Fire Authority Department runs for September 2019. Ira Township didn't give us a report this month. We have a copy of Fifth Third, what did I get?
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm talking out loud. I
Oh,
thought
okay.
Ira did give us a report.
I don't know.
One propane leak.
Oh, yes, okay, you're absolutely right. A copy of the Fifth Third credit card account, for September was no balance. So if we need a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I'll make the motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a second. All in favor signify by saying aye by roll call vote, please.
Tom?
Yes.
Kathy?
Yes.
Sue? Yes. Mary Agnes?
Yes.
Sherry? Yes.
Motion carried. Pay the bills. Okay, now we're gonna let Chief Joe Slankster tell us what he wants to tell us.
Good evening. Just come to invite everybody. We're having an open house Saturday, this Saturday, the 12th, I believe it is, from 1 till 5. We're going to have a smoke trailer from Clay Township for the little kids, teach them how to get out, a smoke-filled building. We're going to have barbecue going for hot dogs and chips and stuff. The police department's going to be there for anybody that has kids or grandkids. They're going to do Identikid cards. Central Dispatch will be there, St. Clair County Central Dispatch. They'll be teaching kids how to use 911. And Tri-Hospital EMS will also have a rig there to let them go through and see what it's like to be inside an ambulance. And there'll be some other activities going on throughout the day. But if anybody's interested, we'll be there from 1 till 5 Saturday.
And there's no charge for this?
No charge. We will possibly even be doing a JAWS demonstration out back. It'll probably be around 2:30, about the middle of our open house. So if anybody's interested, stop in and
Thank you very much.
and I'll stay for a little bit and see if anybody's got any questions after.
Okay,
Thank you.
thanks, Joe. Anyone else want to address the board on anything on the agenda for tonight? If not, 7:58, we'll continue. Unfinished business, none. New business, tabled from September's agenda, request for approval of the First Amendment to the Marine City Fire Authority intergovernmental agreement for fire protection between the City of Marine City, the Charter Township of China, the Charter Township of East China, and the Township of Cottrellville. I give you the stuff that came from the attorney. If you didn't get a chance to read it because you've been here only with all this other stuff going on, we can table this for another month if you want, so that you can review some of that stuff. If you have questions, please write them down, call me, and let me run them to the attorney and have her answer anything you might have a question on, so that we can have a final vote for next month.
I thought we were all set. You guys,
I'm sorry?
I thought we were all set to take a,
Well, we can,
Unless Tom
is there anybody that's got, I mean, she offered if there was any questions. I didn't find anything else that I didn't understand. The only thing that I was worried about, and I have no, experience with, was arbitration.
I think,
We weren't able to, you're not able to sue. You have to pick an arbitrator and, you know, and then that's how you settle your differences. If that's okay with everybody?
I did download the rules of the American Arbitration Association. No, I read through it, you know. Have you ever had to deal with any disputes yet over arbitration? But it would be held in Marine City, and according to what I read here, they would select a, what's the word, unbiased or biased.
Committee?
Unbiased arbitrator who, but the arbitrator's ruling would be final. And then, like you said, you can't sue. And both parties would bring their witnesses, and I think there's things in there about fees and expenses, and so that's all in this. That's what they reference in your amendment, right here. So,
All right, well, if everyone's
unless you want
satisfied
people
with
want
it.
a copy of this to read before next month, I can make a copy of it.
Oh, go ahead, Joe.
Just, you know, I don't have anything to do with, that's the board,
Oh, okay.
that does
I
all
wasn't
that.
Right.
That is the
It's nothing to do with
townships.
the firemen. It has
As
to
fire
do with
chief,
the-
I don't have no say in any of
Okay.
that,
No.
what goes on there.
That's what they said in the amendment. This is what they referenced. And I've only dealt with it being a union member, so I don't know the specifics of the financing and who's responsible for what. But I could make copies for the board members, and we could do it next month. you
Okay,
have
if you want to do
questions.
that, or do you want to just vote on it now? Are you satisfied with it, or?
I haven't had a chance to review it, to tell you the truth.
Okay.
All right, well,
Okay.
let's
I
table it
thought we
then.
did.
Do we have a motion to table it?
All right, I'll second.
Okay. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye?
Aye.
Any nays? Hearing none, motion carried. We'll put this on next month. Okay. We have a request from Cottrellville Township Parks and Recreation Committee to offer a Halloween trunk or treat event on Shortcut Road on Saturday, October 26th. It's listed as the 19th, but I had something come up that I can't be there that day, so I had to switch it to the 26th, which is just before Halloween. We'll need volunteer trunkers and people to hand out donated candy. Parks and Rec will supply the hot dogs, the chips, the apple cider, and donut holes. Prizes for the kids with costumes for being the funniest, prettiest, ugliest, scariest, and weirdest. Pumpkins too, along with the fire department, to make sure that we don't get carried away with the bonfire. They'll send us a fire truck. There's a special prize for the kid who dresses up like one of the township board members, and we'll have a contest to see who looks closest to the actual board member. No, I'm just kidding. If there's inclement weather, we will move it to the boardroom here. And it seems like every year it rains, so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So there is no special prize to, that was a joke.
Why did you want dress
I took it serious. Yeah, I was gonna dress up like me.
You win.
No, I didn't. I said dress up as
Each other. They did that on some other show.
Okay.
So, but are you saying it's the 26th?
It's the 26th,
Okay.
yes, the end of the month. So if we have permission, the board will give us permission to have that date. I would so move to make that motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right, we have a second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. I didn't run it for money because
Yeah,
it
I
seems
see.
like every year I do this, I take it out of my own pocket. So I think we'll just, as long as it's not broke, I'm not gonna fix it. So I'll try and put it on again this year. All right, let's
I
go.
didn't say aye, but I meant aye. I just realized I didn't say anything when you.
Oh, okay, we'll put Susie down, make sure we get her vote.
Yeah.
Okay, the next thing is the Cottrellville Township DPW wants to purchase 16 3/4-inch meters, 14 census iPearl stand-alone 6-foot cables, and 6 1-inch meters for a total of approximately $4,000. I need a motion to spend the money to spend up to $4,000 on that stuff. I'll so move.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a support. We're gonna need roll call vote for that, please, Sherry.
Tom?
Yes.
Sue?
Yes.
Mary Agnes?
Yes,
Kathy?
Yes.
Sherry? Yes.
motion carried. Thank you very much. We were going to talk about an ordinance for unpaid building, mechanical, plumbing, and electrical permits that were issued, never picked up, never paid for, to transfer the balance to the property tax bill. Kathy, you wanna go through and see what,
I wanted to, because I didn't get a chance to talk to you today about it, but I have some questions on this, and I talked a little bit to the building department. I also called the state, because I had some concerns about what we consider unpaid and how far back we can go. So instead of discussing it here, who's gonna?
I haven't seen enough ordinance.
Right, so I wanted to check some things, and so I was gonna say, why don't we just table it
To next-
But we can still do November 13th. We still have enough time if the board decides to do it for this year. Otherwise, there are the possibilities of doing it beginning with summer, and that's what I called the state about. If we decide to go forward and research it a little bit more, we can still do summer of next year as a fee, because it's a fee,
Right.
not a tax.
Right.
So I don't feel comfortable yet. I don't know enough yet. I haven't seen a list. I don't know how many properties or how many permits we're talking about.
Okay.
And if we're just gonna go
It's just a couple.
19 forward, or are we gonna go, it wasn't to go back, right? It was to go 19 or 2020
Just the
forward.
ones that aren't paying,
And would you have one? One.
yeah.
So we could still, if we initiated it later, we could still do it on the summer and see if we can get that one paid for this year. That was what I was gonna suggest, because I'm not clear on it yet. I still have some questions.
Yeah. It's similar to the unpaid garbage. fees.
Right. So when I called the state, they
That's on
said
permit too.
Right. a fee on the summer is the same as a fee on the winter. So it'd be something to consider, even with the water billing and somewhere down the road, you know,
Yep.
maybe keep.
Keep it
So
cleaned
I
up a little
was going to
faster.
suggest that we table it till November, because I still have a lot of questions on it.
Is that a motion?
That is a motion.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to table this until next month. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Hearing none, motion carried. All right, we also have a request for quarterly paychecks for electrical, plumbing, and heating inspectors to balance between the clerk's office and the treasurer's office and the building department ledgers. You wanna,
That, sure, that was suggested by the auditors a couple of times. And right now, the inspectors get paid annually, which Sherry gets a clump at the end of the year. And it's harder to keep track of, it's harder to verify and kind of double check to see if what's been paid and what hasn't. Not saying that they've been, it's wrong, but the auditors suggested that we do it, you can do it on a monthly or a quarterly basis, so I'm making a motion that we do it on a quarterly basis in order to make the tracking
a little
more
easier?
efficient.
I'll support that. Any other discussion? Hearing none? We have a motion on the floor.
Oh, I second, I thought.
No.
Yeah, you just.
Yeah, I just
you
did that.
say you seconded.
Yeah, all in favor?
Oh,
Aye.
Aye.
Oh, aye.
sorry.
Here, any nays? Hearing none? Motion carried.
We're all falling asleep up here.
Yeah, and this is just Coke, you guys. All right, announcements. We have the letter, oh, wait a minute, did we take care of, yes, we did. We took care of the paying of Barb and paying of Kelly Law Firm. Letter from our county commissioner again, Bill Graytop. This is the last month we're gonna say this. It was suggested that we dry land boat storage this winter rather than our residents storing their boat houses due to the high water along the water. Also, sandbags are still available, 20 cents a piece for flooding situation. If you need them, call the treasurer's office and we'll pick them up or have them ready for you to pick up and pay for. There's more information also on that on the township website. There's also an announcement that we're looking for an office person to handle utility billing clerk and elections clerk and be deputy clerk for our clerk. Let's see, was there anything else?
Are you near interviewing anybody, Sherry, yet, or no?
No.
Nobody applied?
An ad's going in the paper.
Any resumes or anything?
We have 3.
So that's all I have. Does anyone else have anything? Susie, you got anything you want to add?
I don't think so.
Kathy?
I just want to say the phone system is really nice that we just got.
Oh, yeah, I
It's
called.
very quiet,
Yeah.
very quiet in the office. The noise reduction is tremendous with those blaring older phones. And you call the office, so the message is really detailed.
Yes, yes,
Yes.
very detailed.
It's gonna take a little time. There's some functions on there that you have to get used to using. You can use it on the computer, your screen, or you can answer physically with the phone. It's real nice, and it was needed, so, thank you. That was a nice addition.
Any comments, Sherry? No. How about you, Tom?
Nope, I'm good.
We're good? All right, then I guess we're in the mood for an adjournment
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
at 8:10. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Nays, hearing none, motion carried. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody.